Show me the money!
Yes, Tom, of course. We will show you the money once we receive your invoice.
Show me the money!
Like I said, we need you to invoice first and then we will send you your money. For the last time, Tom, we need you to invoice for your services. So now you have been freelancing for a while, which means you have made an independent business for yourself. And as such, you need to provide an invoice at the end of the week or maybe at the end of the month or the agreed time of payment that shows how much you're going to be paid for the services that you have provided to them. I know it can be a bit scary when you're just starting because most people are used to getting pay slips at the end of the month and have their employer do all the payment work for them. But after a while, once you send your first invoice, then you have a pattern and you just copy it for the next client or the next payment, and it's just a matter of habit after a while. Personally, I prefer sending my invoice to the client at the end of the month unless they have a different schedule for their payment, or maybe if the work is too short, maybe a couple of weeks, and in this case I might send it at the end of the job. So without further ado, let me show you the template that I'm using and all the details that I need to put on the invoice in order for the payment to be done in the correct way. So first and foremost, at the top of the document, you can see an indication that this is an invoice. Duh! And below that, there's a few identification numbers for this specific invoice. First of all, there is the date. As with any official document, it's a good idea to date the invoices. For example, it has happened in the past that I have a late payment. So with a date, I can see how much time has passed from the day that I have sent the invoice to my client, and then I can contact them and ask them for an update. Hopefully, this is not something that happens very often, but it's always helpful to keep an update on your invoice, both for you and your client. And below that, there is the invoice number. So different professionals, they use different patterns for this. My way of thinking for the numbering of my invoices, I use a combination of letters and the numbers. So for example, this job was done by Pixar Animation Studios. Of course, this is a real invoice. This job has happened. All joking aside, if it was Pixar Animation Studios, I would use an acronym of the client, which is PAS in this example, which stands for Pixar Animation Studios, and then I use a number of 6 digits. So the first 2 digits are the serial number for this specific invoice, for this specific client, for this calendar year. So if this was the first invoice, it would be 01. If I do another invoice for this client, after that, it would be 02. And then after that, it would be 03 for the third invoice, and so on. And then the last 4 digits is just the calendar year. So for this one, it's 2020. So to sum up, this would be the first invoice that I would give to Pixar Animation Studios for the calendar year of 2020. So say for example, you have a job that would require 3 invoices, and 2 of them are on 2020 and 1 of them is in 2021. So the numbering for these invoices would be PAS 01 2020 for the first one, PAS 02 2020 for the second one, and PAS 01 2021 for the third one, which would be the first one for the calendar year of 2021. I hope this is not something confusing for you. It's a system that has worked for me personally, but if you want to find another pattern for the numbering of your invoices, be my guest, you're free to use whatever you want. So below that, there is another identification number, which is the PO number. Like you number your invoices, the client is going to number their jobs sometimes. So they have a specific number for this specific job, it's the PO number, and they ask you to put it on your invoice. No big deal. And then below that, there is a section with your personal details. So Athanasios Kousis, this is my birth name. This is the legal name that I will use for this document because it's an official document that I might need to use for my taxes, or the client might use it for their taxes. So it's probably a good idea to have your legal name on a document like this. Below that, there is the job description. I provided services as a 3D character animator for this job. And below that, you can put some contact details, like your physical address, your phone number, and your email. Of course, I live in 10 Downing Street. It's a flat share in central London. So after you've included your contact numbers, you need to put another 2 very important identification numbers for your business. These numbers may vary depending on your country, and they are the identification numbers that the tax authority in your area gives you for your professional status. So for example, in the UK, the first one is going to be the national insurance number, which is a number that everyone that has the right to work in the UK should have. And the second one is going to be the unique tax reference number, UTR for short, which is basically a 10-digit number that you get when you apply as a self-employed so that you can get freelance jobs. You can also check a link on how to apply for a self-employment status and get your UTR number in the description down below. Moving forward, you see that we have the bank details, the name of the bank, the name on the account that everything is going to be paid into, the sort code, the account number, and if you're working for someone who is abroad, maybe you need to provide them with an IBAN number as well. And then next to it, we have some more contact details, but this time is the contact details of the client. In this case, I believe Pixar Animation Studios is in Emeryville, San Francisco. So yeah, here you can put the physical address of the client or the office or the studio where the client is located. And then you can put the phone number or the email address everyone can use so that they can contact them. And finally below that, you have the most important part of the invoice that everyone is going to check. This is where you put everything concerning the amount of money that you should be paid, depending on your daily rate, the days that you have worked for, and the projects that they hired you for. Specifically in the first column, you put the name of the project that you have worked for. So you can see here that I have put A Bug's Life 2 and The Incredibles 4. If only. And then in the column next to it, you put the job description, it's the type of the services that you have provided. So for this example, it's 3D character animation. And then moving on, you have the number of working days, which are covered by this invoice. And you can also put in parentheses that it's Monday to Friday to be a bit more specific. And then below the number of working days, you can also put in parentheses the start date and the end date so that it can be a bit more clear to the client which days you have included in this invoice. And then right next to it, you can put the daily rate, which is basically the price that you have given for your services in the beginning of the agreement. In this example, it's £250 per day. And then you can multiply this daily rate by the number of working days to get the total amount of the price that you should be paid for this specific project covered by this invoice. So you do that for all of the projects that you have worked on, and then in the right bottom corner you have the addition of all the total amounts above it, which is basically the amount of money that you should be paid for the work that is covered by this invoice. And this is it, you have your first invoice. I really hope this has not been very confusing. On the contrary, actually, I hope this has been helpful for you. I really believe that as a freelance artist or a self-employed creative, you should be in charge of your finances, and filling an invoice in an effective and clear way is definitely a very important thing to do. And as you can see, after you create your first invoice, then it's very easy to update it for the next employer or the next project. And with that said, I really hope this has been a helpful video for you. If so, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel for more content. Also, you might want to give a look to this other video that I have done on how to be a self-employed creative. I think the link is somewhere here. And with that said, thank you so much for staying till the end of the video. I've been Thanos. I will see you in the next video. And bye!